Hello, and welcome to the Music Teacher Coffee Talk podcast. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Tanya. We are both elementary music teachers who love to talk shop, preferably over a steaming cup of coffee. This is episode 157. Today we are talking about our favorite dances, play parties, and active games for the end of the school year. We'll also talk about our highs and lows from the teaching week, discuss some ideas in our Know Better, Do Better segment, share a work smarter, not harder teacher tip.
And in our CODA section, we'll give some specific recommendations of our favorite things we are enjoying in and out of the music room. So grab your beverage of choice and let's get started. So now it is time to share some highs and lows from our teaching week. So, Tanya, what's been going on?
So many things. Okay, I'm going to go kind of unconventional with my high because it didn't really happen in my teaching week. It happened many years ago, and I'll explain. Um, Me and my family this past year, we moved into the neighborhood where my husband and I had been teaching in the neighborhood elementary school for me 24 years. My husband's going on 26 years in this one school. We moved to that neighborhood after teaching there for many years. Anyway, so me and my husband Craig were out for a walk, and we ran into a mom and her now 20 something son. This family that we've kind of kept in touch with um, over the years, and they went through our school, him and his brother, lots of years ago. And it was just really delightful because he is really into music. Not really playing music, but he's like a big music geek, big music fan. And it was just so wonderful to have like this grown up conversation with a former student who, I mean, he has told me in the past that I inspired him to look into some specific artists. And these were not artists that I introduced in the music room. These are things when he was in elementary school that he would ask like follow-up questions, and I'd go, "Oh, you should go listen to David Bowie. Oh, you should go listen to." Anyway, so I'd like to think I played a small part into his exploration of like all this music that he's listening to, because it was an awesome conversation, because he has, well, I must say, he has fantastic taste in music, and a lot of it is similar to mine. And so it was just awesome. And he was bringing up obscure artists that I'm really into, um, and that was just kind of like, wow, hey, maybe I've made a difference in somebody's. I mean, of course, we hope that, but it just kind of reminded me that the reason I teach music is not so that kids will learn how to read, write music, and play music in their life necessarily. If that happens, that's cool. But I want to turn people on to the joy of music, whether it's listening, participating in as a solo endeavor, with a group, or all of the above. And it was just nice to see, okay, I've done it for at least one kid out there.
Check.
Right. I almost said my work here is done.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
very validating.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was a highlight, many years. It was a high, many years coming.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, well, I'm just going to go a little low in that, I'm just going to say it because I know a lot of teachers are feeling it right now. It's me or May, however you want to say it in Justin Timberlake world. It's May, right? So
It
things are
is
crazy
May.
and
Yeah.
I'm in the thick of it and I know a lot of you are in the thick of it and I tell you, one of these years I'll get it right, like as far as like the right balance of performances in May. I really kind of try to avoid it, but this year I have a musical and I have a fourth grade program, which I talked about in a past podcast that I had to push back to May. All that to say, I'm really in the thick of all of this. I'm like consumed right now with like, oh, gotta get this little costume piece and gotta get this little prop that I forgot to get. And I do have a lot of parent help, and that's been really, really, really awesome. But there's still just some stuff you got to do yourself, right? Because by the time you assign it and ask a parent to do it, it would have been just faster for me just to order the dang thing on Amazon. So, anyways, all that to say, it's musical week coming up this week for me, so I'm a little stressed out. But once it's done, and it will be fine because it always ends up being fine. So, if you're in the thick of it like me and you're feeling May, it's okay. We'll get through it. Summer is coming.
And it's time for our main theme. And we are discussing our favorite outdoor songs, play parties, dances that we like to do at the very end of the year. And it's time for our main theme. Today we're talking about moving and grooving. That is songs, play parties, games, dances that we like to do at the end of the year as just a joyful release. We do have other episodes where we talk about specifically dances. And of course, I don't remember the number of that one, but we'll put it in the show notes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we will also try to link where we can to YouTube versions because I know that mine have a couple that, other music teachers have made videos of students doing these specific dances so that you can really, if you want to follow through and really get into the specific steps of these dances, because we're not going to be going over every single step of everything that we're talking about today, just listing our favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in our last episode, 156, we just talked about just generic kind of what we like to do at the end of the year. And so this is more of a deep dive into specific, the movement aspect of it, because this is a time where you just want to keep it moving and
Yes.
grooving. So we're going to share a couple of our favorite primaries and then a couple of our favorite intermediates. But obviously, you can do whatever dance you want to do with whatever grade. But this is kind of what we do with our kids and what we recommend. So, Tanya, you want to start us off with some of your favorite primary dances?
Yeah. So actually, this is a primary dance, but it's more upper primary. So I love to do bingo at the end of second grade. And this is the bingo song that I specifically got from Martha Riley. But I know that Dr. Susan Brumfield uses it too. And it probably is in the book that we recommended last episode. You'll have to look it up and tell
I
me.
have it right here. Keep talking and I'll see.
Okay, so the song goes, there was a black dog sat on the back porch and Bingo was his name. There was a black dog that sat on the back porch and Bingo was his name. Bingo, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, Bingo. I'm not warmed up today, I can tell.
It's
Okay,
early.
whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, I'll interject and say it's not in that particular book. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. It's somewhere, and I know I can find a
We'll
link
put it in the
to.
show notes
We'll
where we
put it in the
got it
show
from.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I sang it because there's, of course, another very popular variant of bingo. I mean, there's other variants of always. I grew up knowing a completely different bingo. Same words, different melody. Anyway, this is a perfect time to introduce the grand right and left move, and I like to do it with second grade because it's about perfectly developmentally right where they're at the end of second grade. They really do have to know their right from their left. But as they come in, I give them a little stamp on their right hand so that they can do that. I know other people will do like a scrunchie on their right wrist or, all kinds of variations of how you get students to tell their right from their left. But I do have a couple of different ways to teach the grand right and left, and it can be really challenging if you haven't thought through how to teach that move before. My favorite way to do it that has been really successful for me in the last few years is that I put kids in partners. They're facing each other, they're in a single circle with partners facing each other. And I call the kids facing count clockwise, they're all A's. And I go through the circle. You're A, you're B, you're A, B. And the kids that are facing counterclockwise are B's. And I have the B's sit down facing their partner crisscross. And I have the A's do the grand right and left, um, weaving in and out of the circle while the bees are sitting down. And then we switch where the bees are moving and standing and walking in, weaving in and out of the circle as the A's sit down and just focus on giving alternate hands as they do this grand right and left move. If you don't know what I'm talking about with grand right and left, you really have to see it. I cannot describe it adequately. Has to be seen. So
We'll put a link
we'll
to
put a
a
link.
video of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, everybody stands and we practice grand, right, and left. And it's really important to remember they will mess it up and you got to be patient. And this is why. the end of second grade seems to be the greatest time to do this. And before we start, I always have the kids face their very first partner and say, "Hello, first partner. You are my first partner. When we mess up, which is inevitable, and how we learn, then we are going to go back to our first partner. When Miss Lejeune says, go back to your first partner, I'll meet you right here." Right? So that we all get that this is a learning thing. Anyway, once they know the grand, right, and left, it's lovely because we can play bingo. And when we do the BINGO part is the grand, right, and left. But when we sing BINGO, first time we sing all the letters, second time we clap on the B, this next time we clap on the B and the I, and we enter here the B and the I, and we sing the rest of the letters, all of that good stuff. All right. So this can lead very well into the Amazon's vowel dance, which is very similar. And the grand right and left happens on A, E, I, O, U, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a lovely thing because requires no singing and they can easily do that grand right and left and just focus on that. So when I teach grand right and left to older kids, which I will be doing this next week because the fourth graders just had a wonderful Colorado concert and they will be learning the vowel dance. I'm not going to start with bingo. It's a little young for them for fourth grade. I'm going to start with the vowel dance and teaching them, I think will go much faster because they know their right and left. I'm still going to stamp their hands. But the no singing is required. We put on the music. And of course, I didn't look up which Amazon resource, which Amazon book this is from, the Val Dance. I want to say Chimes of Dunkirk, but I could be wrong. So anyway, we'll put that in the show notes,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what's really smart, you might have said this explicitly and I missed it, but the fact that you're teaching the grand, right, and left to younger kids through a song that doesn't have recorded music and you're singing it so you can set the tempo and go as fast or slow on that grand, right, and left as possible. So then when you are doing it with recorded music, now you're stuck, right? You have to go
Yeah,
with the tempo that they're at. But to teach
exactly.
the grand, right, and left through a song that doesn't have recorded music is super smart.
Right. I'm sorry. You probably just heard the music play of Heel and Topoka as I was looking for where the Val dance lives, but we'll find it and link it.
Yeah,
I know there's some of you who are just yelling at the podcast now because you know exactly
you
which
do.
Amazon
We can
book
hear
that is.
you.
Yes. Thank you for telling me.
And we
Sorry, I
say
don't
it
know.
at the end, but in case you never make it to the end, our show notes can be found at musicteachercoffeetalkpodcast.com. Sometimes people email us and ask us, so then I know
Yeah,
you're not making it to the end if you don't know. No, I'm just teasing. Musicteachercoffeetalkpodcast.com, click show notes, and that's where you can find show notes
exactly.
that go back for a long, long time. So,
Yeah. And so after me in the beginning of this episode saying, we're not going to tell you all the steps, I just explained my grand right and left process. Take that for what it's worth. Moving on. Give
no, I
us your
love that.
first primary um, dance or play party that you love to do, Carrie.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to talk about, again, a song, a singing, I guess you would just call it a circle game or a circle dance, Rig a Jig Jig. Again, you can find it in lots of sources. It's funny because you mentioned this source last week, Tanya, that I'm holding up right now. It's the 120 Singing Games and Dances for Elementary Schools, Lois Choksey and David Brummett. Okay, and
Don't buy that, everybody. Don't go buy that
don't
because
necessarily go buy it
I
because it
can't
is,
afford it. And
yeah,
there's better things these days. I
yeah.
mean,
So
I love you, Lois, but no, yeah.
it probably can be found in another source, but this just happens to be the one that I grabbed. So the song goes, as I was walking down the street, down the street, down the street. Now, the original is a pretty girl I chanced to meet, but I changed it to a nice young friend I chanced to meet. Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho. Oh, gosh, yes, it's very early. I'm sorry. That was not great singing. So that's the A section, which is very duple meter. And then the B section goes into compound meter. Rig a jig jig and away we go, away we go, away we go. Rig a jig jig and away we go. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. So I use this song for A B form, which is really tricky for first graders, and we're talking big A, big B.
Mm,
I usually teach that at the end of first grade, and so This one's tricky because the tune is the same, the melody is the same, but what's different is the feel of the duple versus compound meter, which I don't teach that in a theoretical way at this point. We're just listening for the different styles and feeling of those beats, and that's how we identify A and B form. But all that to say, there is a suggested movement in the book, but it's not what I do. So, no, you don't really need the source because I'm going to tell you what I do, which if I got this from somebody, I'm sorry, I don't know who I got it from or if I just maybe made it up over the years. But what we do is we stand in a circle, and during the as I was walking down the street, one student, although the first time we played, it's generally me, walks around the inside of the circle, and everyone else is just sitting and or standing and patting the steady beat. When we get to a nice young friend I chance to meet, they join two hands with whoever they're close to, gently bring them slightly into the circle, and then on rig a jig jig and away we go. In the B section on rig a jig jig, we do this little back and forth with our hands like we're a washing machine, right?
Yeah,
And
you can see I've been doing that when you were
then
singing.
rig a jig jig. Maybe I got this from you, Tanya. I don't know.
You know
Rig.
what? You got this from Joe Kirk.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
wondered if
because
it was
because
Joker.
this is how I do it,
Okay.
and I got this from Joe Kirk.
I was wondering. And then on away we go, away we go. You and that one kid now are sashaying around the inside of the circle, right? And then now on the repeat, it's me and the other kid. We're walking down the street, like I walk and they follow me, walking down the street, and then on nice young friend I chance to meet, I pick a friend, they pick a friend, so it's a cumulative type movement. Now there's four of us going a rig a jig jig, and away we go sashaying around the inside of the circle. Then there's four people, then there's eight people, and by the time you get to the last verse, then some of the inside people have to partner up because you've run out of outside people until we've all joined hands and we're basically in a double circle, a rig a jig jig, doing this little washing machine motion, away we go sashaying around. So that's the basic movement that I learned from Joe Kirk. Thank you, Joe Kirk, which is different than what's in the 120. But then
Yes.
we're using that too, and then listen for the difference between the walking feeling of the A part and the skipping or sashaying feeling of the B part.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that it's funny that you mentioned this for the end of the year because I've used it for the very beginning of the year with
Oh
first
yeah,
grade as a review of fast and slow. Now, it's like more subtle fast and slow if
yeah.
we're because we're feeling like you said the change in meter, but I deliberately slow that first part down and then we rig a jig jig and away and I speed the second
Oh
part,
cute.
the B section, up a little bit. So it makes for a nice review of fast and slow in second grade, and also kind of a community building. Here's our new class. We're mixing with different people, kind of thing.
Totally. And then, if I may, Tanya, I'll go ahead and talk about my secondary primary one because it's related. Because this is another one that I use for big A, big B form, and it's the Mexican folk dance La Raspa, which again you can find so many versions of this. I have the one from Sana Longden's CD number 2, More Folk Dance Music for Kids and Teachers. Now, how you teach this movement depends on the music that you find, because sometimes it is just an A B where it goes back and forth between an A section and a B section, and those are always the same. There are some versions that have a third section that's brought in, and then it ends up being more of a rondo where the A always comes back as the same, but sometimes it's B and sometimes it's C. So it depends on which one you're doing. But if you're doing the basic A B form, what the students do is they stand in a circle and they do, I just call it the scissor step. So they've got their, I'm doing this for the YouTube people with my fingers right now. They've got their feet out, so one foot is in front of the other, and the foot that's out in front, their toes are pointed up towards the ceiling with their heel on the floor. And then on the da 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 da, they're switching their feet. So they're a switch, a switch, a switch, and then there's a little pause there. And then after we've done it enough times, we can add the two little claps. So it's a switch, a switch, a switch, a switch, a switch, a switch, right? And so this song, it kind of has a double duty for me, and then I use it for big A, big B, but I also use it as a rest practice because after we've danced or before we've danced, depending on the lesson, we might sit and clap ta, 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 rest, ta, 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 rest. We don't say rest in my classroom. I'm just doing it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Or we play it on sticks or whatever. So we do that ta, ta, ta with our feet as well as read it or play it or whatever. And then on the B section, again, it depends on what you want to do with your kids. In my world, we just simply join hands and we walk to the left, and we're walking, we're walking, we're walking, and we're walking, we're walking, we're walking. And then on the second part of it, we're walking back to the right. Walking, we're walking, walking, we'll walk back to the right. And then we just go back and forth between those two. Now, there's different versions of this where you could have them face partners, you can have them do like two hand turns around their partners. There's so many different ways you can do La Raspa, but that's like my really basic one. And again, it works really well to do this in conjunction with Rig a Jig Jig as far as two different movements that both emphasize big form, whether it's A B or ABC, depending on the musical version you do. So that's La Raspa.
Nice. Yes. So much fun. I love how you're including your, reviewing of rhythmic things and form. And I have not been doing that because, yeah,
Well, and all that to say, just moving for the sake of moving is okay too.
exactly.
But when you can incorporate your movement into, an element of music that you've been teaching, it's just kind of a lovely
Sure.
transition. But we
Oh,
also
yeah.
just do it because it's fun.
Yeah. And, but by the way, what's this rhythm? Yeah. That's
Exactly.
always lovely to do that. And then when it happens organically, wonderful thing too.
Yeah.
Uh, all that said, my next dance is not anything that I highlight any specific form or any specific rhythm or melody or anything, and it is the broom dance. And I want to specify that this is not a broom dance that involves jumping over the broom or doing steps in and out as you're moving over a broom. So maybe I need to, and I haven't spent any time. I know that this has been used at weddings and such, um, but it's a broom dance where a broom is used simply as a prop that you hand to somebody else. So in the broom dance, there is a long way set of kids. It doesn't matter male, female. We've let go of that altogether anyway.
Oh yeah.
And then you have three chairs that are at the top of the set. And there's three kids, one kid in the middle chair, two on either side. And the kid in the middle gets the broom and they can dance up and down with the broom however they want. Now, the lovely thing is that when one kid is dancing and everybody else is watching, kids get self conscious about that, even the littler kids. So when you give them a broom, it's like giving a child a puppet when they're singing. The focus is on the broom. So they're like, "Ooh, what can I do with the broom? Oh, I can, pretend like I'm riding it and run up and down the set. I can gently wave it in the air and dance around. I've had kids who they look like they're doing, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. What's the sport? Curling. Yeah,
Oh
kids who pretend like they're curling. Like that's fine. We call any of that quote dancing, and they just move up and down the set as long as they want, right?
yeah.
Some kids barely go up and down, and that's fine. And then when they feel like they've done enough of their own independent dancing with the broom, then they go back to the head of the set and they hand the broom to one student, and that student will now take the center chair, and then with the other student they take that student by the hands and they sashay down the center of the set and go to the very end of the set. And then we've got new kids who sit on either side of the kid in the middle who has the broom, and we start all over again. Now I mentioned this broom dance because I did this um, near Christmas, right before winter break. I did a little broom dancing with my littler kids with first grade and second grade, not with kindergarten, but I think I might see how that goes with kindergarten. Um, and they, in the last couple of weeks, students have been like, "You said we would do the broom dance again at the end of the year. Is it time yet? Are we doing the broom dance?" So that to me says, okay, cool. This is a really fun, just get to express ourselves moving thing. And I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, Carrie. I'm always more comfortable with structured dances where there's very prescribed movements and it's usually just stepping, right?
Mm,
And turning with a partner. This is a little bit of you move how you want to move, right?
hmm.
And you have kids who they really relish the opportunity to show off in front of their other students. You have kids who are more shy about it, but having that broom as the prop really just changes everything as far as how insecure or secure they feel.
Well, and
So I
doing
love that.
doing it at the end of the year, I mean, they're more comfortable with each other than they would have been earlier in the year. And maybe they now have a bigger movement vocabulary, right? Because you've done all of these things throughout the year. And now you can refer back to, oh, remember we learned how to sashay, we learned how to
Right.
march, we learned, all these different things. So now you've given them more ideas.
Right. And when we do this, and even with the kids who already know it, I'm always first so I can model some, movements that we've done. I get a little kooky. I make a fool out of myself doing all kinds of crazy movements so that they can go, well, Miss Lejeune did this thing. I can do this thing. So, yeah,
Right.
I model all those things. The other thing I love about it is you can put almost any music that is up tempo, um, or not. You could even do some mellower songs with this. But my favorite piece is to do this a song called Makulele by Nazare Pereira, which I could be saying wrong. Anyway, it's she's a Brazilian artist, Brazilian musician, and this is just a joyful song. And it's in Portuguese, of course, and it's one of my favorite Brazilian songs. And it's just lovely because they don't know it, but they just the tempo is fantastic. It's very joyful, and they just start moving right away. I've also used other songs that they are more familiar with that they get excited about. Um, and it just works very well inside. It also works wonderful outside. If you have a sound source, if you can bring a music block rocker um, outside, that kind of thing. And it's a lovely end of the school year, end of the class time, joyful dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All
Should we talk about more immediate things?
right. Intermediate things.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Well, and
Intermediate.
immediate things you can do right away.
Intermediate, you could do immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll talk about one that I have been really loving lately, and it's kind of a song that I've always had in my collection, and I just kind of like was never really jazzed about it, but it has come out and joined both third grade and fourth grade in my world, and that's Shake Them Simmons Down. Simmons being shortened version of persimmons, which are a fruit. So Shake Them Simmons Down can be found in the little handy dandy play party book, which is so handy dandy and tiny that I cannot find it. I was looking for it on my shelf and I cannot find it. But hey,
Not
guess
in
what?
your suit pocket like it's supposed to live.
No, I don't know where it is. I think it's at school. But guess what? It's also in Susan Bromfield's new book,
Thank you, Susan.
101 Songs and Games for Singing, Playing, and More. And so this is a play party, meaning a dance that was originally done without instrumental music, where the youth and the children who would be doing the dance would just be singing away. And there's a whole history of play parties that's fascinating that I won't get into it now. But yeah, you just sing and you call, and there's different movements you can do. But the basic melody is circle left, duo, duo, circle left, duo, duo, circle left, duo, duo, shake them Simmons down. And it's just a really lovely, simple melody that is just do, re, mi, lo, la, and lo, so. So in my world, we use this as a lo, so song. In third grade, we just learned lo, so. And then in fourth grade, I used it as a review of lo, so. But then also, we've been playing it on the recorder with low D, low E, G, A, B, which is really fun. Now, you could straighten out the rhythm. Obviously, when you do the play party with the kids, you want to have that, what is it? Katim, that katim rhythm in there when you're singing with the kids, because it's much more fun to go shake them Simmons down than shake them Simmons down. But on the recorder, I do have it in a straight printed rhythm, but it's funny because most of the time the kids end up playing it with that little katim. I can't say katim today rhythm. All that to say, you can use it for reading if you wanted to, or you could just play the play party. So on Shake Them Simmons Down, whenever that happens, I just have them do a motion like they're shaking the persimmons out of the tree. So they just kind of like shake and move their hands down as they're shaking. And we're in a circle and we just do what the song says. So in the first verse, we're circling left. Now in Susan's book, she has circle left on the first verse. And then on the second verse, it's circle right. And then on the third verse, it's balance all, which is taking 4 steps in, 4 steps back, 4 steps in, 4 steps back. So super simple. And then she has round your partners for the first verse, or fourth verse, excuse me, which is do si do, and then round your corner do si do with the person on the other side of you, and then promenade, join hands in skater position, and promenade clockwise around the circle. But this is one of those things where, in the moment, you can call anything you want. You can have them do si do, you can have them right hand turn, you can have them allemande. So what it's really beautiful for is if you know you're going to be doing another more formalized dance later, you can use this as like a warm up song or a warm up dance to teach those moves. I don't know if you could you grant, grand right and left might not work so well in this one, but just any move that you want to teach your kids or any movement vocabulary, this is a really good one for. So this is the one that I taught my students what the difference between partner and corner was, and then that led into the next dance I'm going to talk about. So I can talk about that now, or I can come back to it. Tanya, what
You
do you
should
want to
do
do?
it. Go with
Okay,
partner
so
corner and then go dance.
so with third grade, we've just been doing it straight up like that, and using the low so. Fourth grade, low so, playing it on recorder. But then, as Tanya mentioned earlier, in Colorado, our fourth graders learn Colorado history. So my students have their Colorado history music program coming up soon, and the official state dance of Colorado is the square dance. So as a
I
fun
did
part
not
of
know
my
that.
yeah,
Oh,
as a fun part of my Colorado history music program, I wanted my students to perform a square dance. And so the square dance I'm using is the Simple Square, which is in the Chimes of Dunkirk book by the Amazons. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because that is just a book you should buy anyways, but I'll link to the YouTube video so you can at least see what it looks like. But what I love about it is that he does the calling for you. So in the recording, you have Peter Amidon doing all the calls, and it's just a really great simple square dance to teach your kids, hence the name Simple Square, and they absolutely love it. So by doing Shake Them Simmons Down with fourth grade leading into the square dance, they already knew pretty much all of the moves that all of the formalized dances that he calls. The only thing they didn't know was an allemande. So once I taught that to them, we were able to learn this entire square dance basically in one class period because they already had all the movement vocabulary. So I will link to the Chimes of Dunkirk book, but I will also link to a YouTube video where you can see what the simple square looks like.
and if you have the right number of kids, this is your opportunity to step back and sip your coffee.
Yes. Now,
Not
in
just
my
because you want your coffee, but because whenever you can, you should be stepping back and making sure the kids have that ownership and that agency, and it's them and not you, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Now, in pretty much all of my fourth grade classes, I have slightly smaller fourth grade classes. I'm generally hovering around 20 kids in a class. So, inevitably, we have two squares who are dancing, and then usually three or four kids who are sitting out. But then we just like pause every once in a while and I rotate them in. So, nobody sits out for the entire dance. And that kind of gives some kids a break who might not be super jazzed about square dancing. But also, sometimes some kids have a hard time doing the dance, but if they sit back and they watch it once, then they see other kids doing it, and then the next time they go in, they do it much better. So I kind of strategically look for kids who maybe would benefit from watching once or twice before they do the dance, because now that they've seen it, they're like, oh, I get what that is now. But yeah, my kids love it. They're begging for it every day, and I'm really excited for us to do it in our program. So stay tuned. I'm sure I'll talk about it in our next podcast. Hopefully, it'll go well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you want to talk about your favorite intermediates, Tanya?
Sure. Now it's interesting because I was just looking. I've been doing lately a few long waist sets because of a very specific challenge that I have in my room. Last week, when I was doing my Colorado concert, I have fourth grade in the very middle of the day, and I have exactly 14 minutes to set the stage and move the flip forms and open the stage because I've got a stage room, which has some challenges that I'm still, even though it's my second year here, I'm still figuring these out. And with all that, and also wheeling instruments out and microphones and getting my guitar ready, all that stuff. I just decided last week that it made more sense to keep the flip forms up in my room for one afternoon plus one day before the concert. So this led me to more long way sets because then my room is already narrow, and now with flip forms there, it was more narrow. So anyway, one of my favorite long way sets, and I know I've talked about it before, but I'm going to mention it again here, is the Grumpy March, which starts as a long way set, but there is a place in it where kids take hands and there's an oval. So they're moving clockwise and and they're moving counterclockwise, not as a circle, but as a long way set that connects on either end and turns into an oval, right? So it just has been working out perfectly for us right now. And the Grumpy March, I think, well, I know when we talked about it before, I connected it to SEL type activities, which I do again because, like you had mentioned earlier in this episode, this is a time of year that is joyful and also can be grumpy, not just for us teachers, but also for students. So, this is an opportunity for you to get your grumps out, as I say. Um, I use this with fourth grade and maybe later third grade. In fact, I did just teach it to a third grade class. We're at the end of third grade, so we're almost fourth graders. I haven't done it with fifth graders, but I bet I could. It would work well for them because the whole idea of the grumpy march is at the beginning when you and your partner trade places and you do your clap right, clap left. You're supposed to put on a grumpy face and you're supposed to kind of stomp and grump around. Uh, it's a lovely dance. I'm not going to talk in depth about all the steps, but this is also a dance that you can put to other songs besides what's listed in the Amadon's resource book. The song is Red Wing slash something else. Old Crow slash Red Wing is the music that is suggested. That works really well. But I've also used it with other popular music as long as it has that four feel. You're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So Grumpy March, great. I'm not tying it to any specific concept. We're just doing it. We're just moving and grooving.
Fun.
Yeah. As for another dance that I like to do, and I do like to take this one outside, I could do it in my room. In fact, I probably will do it in my room now that the flip forms are gone because this is a circle, is cut the cake, which I know we've talked about before. And we've got that wonderful so fa mi re do on the end of then you cut the cake, right? And it's a chase game where there's a kid in the middle and they slice the cake at the very end, and the two kids that they slice in between, those kids take off in opposite directions and go all the way around the circle and come back to see who wins the spot, and they have to tag the kid who selected from the middle. I think we can link to a video of cut the cake for sure.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I know some people who do cut the cake, like even in first grade, which that's fine. You do you. I like to save this one because it is a game and song that works well with upper grades if we're going to be decoding the melody.
Yeah.
Um, I know we've sung it again. I'll just sing it here. Clap your hands together, give yourself a shake, make a happy circle, then you cut the cake. And then I add at the end, slice
No,
because
that's
why
great.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah. And my older kids love this game so much so that there have been more than 1 year where at the very end, when we're choosing songs and games that they want to do it again, that's always on the top of the list. Cut the
Oh yeah.
cake. Please be careful when you have kids running around the circle. Put something in there like Joe Kirk's good morning, good afternoon, good night, where the kids have to stop, shake hands, and say that before they take off again. Because,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and I know I've said this before in an episode, there has been blood. I have had kids who have run into each other and bled
Yeah.
from their mouths. Um, that has happened.
Well, for me, and we've probably talked about this too. It's not so much the passing by each other. I do the morning, good afternoon, good night thing. It's
It's at
when
the
they meet
end.
each other at the end and they're running towards each other and they have to hit the hand of the person. Do you have the person who are they stand are they
Okay,
standing there with
so
two hands out? How do you do that part? Because that's
well,
the part I
because
can
of
never.
Becca, because she's much smarter than I. Our friend Becca. Hi,
Yes,
Becca.
hi
How's it
Becca.
going? We love you. Yes, I have a kid who is the one that they have to tag to see who's there first.
Yeah,
Stand in the vacated spot with a hand on the right and the hand on the left, opened
yeah,
up, if you can see me. And then, the kid that's coming from the right side, they have to touch well,
that
actually, that hand, the left hand,
yeah,
and vice versa,
right.
right? So they're not touching because I used to have like a
One
kid with
hand.
one hand out. Whoever touches this hand is the one who wins the space. But yeah, then they
Yeah.
bonk together. So if you have it like, I'm sorry for those of you who are listening. Those of
Two
you who are
hands
watching the
out.
video, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, two hands out. And
One on
so
either side.
one on either side, and the kid has to touch their designated hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still sometimes bump into the person whose hands are out though. Like it's like I have to teach them the idea of like slowing down your momentum at the end. Like you can't be running full speed at the end. You kind of have to slow it down a little bit.
All right. Well, here's an idea that I've never tried and I just thought up and could be
Okay.
disastrous, but maybe I'll give it a try. What if you had that person have a scarf in each hand
And they had to
and the
grab the
person
scarf
has to
out.
grab the scarf and wave it over their head? What if
Hmm,
that?
that's
I don't
interesting.
know.
I
I
don't know.
just,
Yeah.
maybe I'll try it out, see how that goes. Yeah. It could be like the,
Yeah.
I don't know,
And I know
wavy.
some people who just don't allow the kids to run. They are like, you
Yeah.
have to walk fast or heel
Yeah.
walk. I get it. I understand, especially if you are in a smaller room or a smaller space and you really just truly don't think you can. But it really does take away the fun of the game. The fun is
Well,
there.
and this is another reason why I do it for older grades because older kids physically are able to, they have the skill of running and then slowing or stopping,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You say a kindergartner, run, run, run. And then when I call out stop, you're going to stop. That's harder if
Yeah.
you are littler. So fifth graders, fourth graders, they should be able to run, 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 slow down, stop, or run, 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 stop,
Yeah.
right?
In theory.
In theory. That said, you know your situation and your kiddos, and even the time that there was blood, it was fine. It was okay. It wasn't huge. No one went to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Um, just a little bit of blood. They were laughing all the way to the clinic.
All the way there.
Not saying
That's
that
awesome.
makes it all okay. I'm just saying that, I
Know your
was I was younger and not as wise then, and now I've got some more things to make sure we're safe.
accidents happen.
Accidents happen, exactly.
So now it's time for our segment called Know Better, Do Better, where we talk about ways to be more culturally responsive and thoughtful in our classrooms. So, Tanya, what would you like to talk about?
Well, as the school year closes and we are all thinking about what kind of opportunities for summer PD might be out there, I really wanted to highlight again some opportunities if you are interested in learning about diverse perspectives in music education. And one thing that we've already mentioned, but I'm going to mention it here again, is there is a master's degree in music education with diverse perspectives concentration that is offered by the University of St. Thomas. And Dr. Karen Howard is who you can contact all about that. If I were younger and needed more, didn't have a master's, I would totally be heading towards St. Thomas for this degree program. It's wonderful that they have this. Um, Dr. Karen Howard is a fantastic researcher in all things cultural music education and culturally responsive teaching, and this is a opportunity that I really hope a lot of people get into. If you are not looking for a master's per se, but you want some more education in just global music, I can't recommend enough, even though I haven't officially taken it. The world music pedagogy courses that happen this in the summer, I did take one online in 2020, which was fantastic. And I really want to go in person this summer. It's not the summer for me, but I'm going to put it out there that within the next 2 years, I'm going to make it to a Smithsonian Folkways certificate program of world music pedagogy. There's one again at St. Thomas that is June 24th through the 28th this summer of 2024, that just looks chock full of fantastic experiences. And so that is a wonderful thing that you could be enriching your music education toolbox and really just it just seems like so much fun to be learning about all these other musics with people who are like-minded, other music teachers. I really wish I could go this summer. It's not happening this summer, but I'm gonna be there in the next couple of summers. I'm putting it out in the world. I'm, as the kids say, manifesting things. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great programs. I definitely would like to do something in the future as well. So maybe we'll go together, Tanya. That'd be fun.
Ooh, that'd be fun. Yeah. And it's time for our work smarter, not harder teacher tip. Carrie,
I
what
just
have
want to. Oh, I just want to give a little shout out to, not that Amazon needs it, but the idea of using Amazon wish lists. So I know a lot of teachers already do this. Create a wish list. You know, I see them a lot at the beginning of the school year of here are all the things I'd like for my classroom if anyone wants to donate something. And so for teacher appreciation this year, our PTA asked all of the teachers in our school to create an Amazon wish list, and share the link with them. And I've just been getting random things showing up in my classroom, which has been really, really cool. Just like little things, like, I mean, dry erase markers and things like that. But I also put like picture books on my Amazon wish list that I didn't already have. So we'll see. But I also just want to mention that, I mean, even if it's not necessarily for expecting people to buy stuff for you, it's just a great way to organize, like, just things that you know you want, like in a very visual way. So, you know, these picture books, these puppets, these materials, these things that I can use for manipulatives. Yeah, just anything that you know you're wanting for your classroom, it's just a great way to create a list, basically a shopping list. So even if it ends up being you purchasing those things with school budget money next year, it's all there and ready to go. So especially at the end of the year, as you're like taking inventory of your classroom and kind of thinking, oh, next year it'd be really nice to have blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, not everything's going to be on Amazon that music teachers want. You know, there are some music specific things you're going to need to go to a music vendor to purchase, like instruments and things. But as far as like books, materials, things like that, puppets, folk madness puppets, all that stuff you can get on Amazon. So, you know, just consider creating a wish list, because then if somebody does ask you, hey, I would love to donate something to your classroom, what do you need? You've got this list ready to go and you can just share the link. So, I've been enjoying creating and maintaining my Amazon wish list. It's kind of fun, especially when things just show up in my classroom. So, thank you to the parents, not that they're listening, who donate things. It's pretty nice. So now it is time for our CODA section, where we share something that we are enjoying in or out of the classroom. So what you got, Tanya?
surprise? It's another podcast because goodness knows I have to be up and moving and, doing laundry and doing dishes and all of that stuff. Anyway, all that to say, podcasts. I love podcasts. I had resisted. I don't know why. I guess I'm having a time in my life where I realize I'm at a certain time in my life that I am older now. And I know I keep mentioning this.
We all get older, Tanya. It's okay.
I know it's better than the alternative, but I still struggle. I still think I'm 35 is the thing, but I'm really not. I notice this in pop culture, especially when I hear other teachers at comedy shows reference the 1990s as vintage, which just I still can't get over that. 1990s, not vintage. No. Anyway, uh, so that's my big bugaboo right now, where I'm just like, what? What's going on? All right. So I've been listening to the Julia Louis Dreyfus podcast, Wiser Than Me, where she talks to women that are older than her. And these are women that I am familiar with, of course. So the first one I listened to was the Jane Fonda episode. And if you don't know who Jane Fonda is, kids, you should go look her up. She's an amazing actress and activist and all kinds of things. So she talks to women who are wiser than her, and she almost all of them, every single one of them that I've listened to. I haven't listened to all of them. um the women, they tell how old they are, they talk about what it's like to be an older woman, lessons they've learned, and it's not sentimental. I think I was nervous that listening to this podcast was going to be really sappy, and it's not at all. It's really delightful, and she's talked to Bonnie Raitt, Isabella Allende, just a lot of variety of older women. And I have found it great to listen to and comforting in me and my whole mind, whatever transition of like, oh, yeah, I'm not 35, kind of need to get into that I'm not 35. Yeah. And it's okay. And I still
Totally.
have life to look forward to. It's nice to hear people who
Yeah.
are wiser than me. There you go. There's my plug.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna listen to it. I like this
It's
idea.
nice.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I have heard of this podcast, but haven't listened to it. I like that you said it's not sentimental because I think that's probably why I've also avoided it. Like, I don't need sappy things right now. I just need like funny and real.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting about ageism that I think when I was younger, and I think this is kind of baked into our society, that we have this idea that older people um, are just sentimental and that they don't understand what's going on in the world and that they don't have, like, I don't know how to say it better, crass senses of humor, and that everything is puritanical for people who are older. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
Yes. So it's a good reminder that, yeah, that there's people that we can learn from and it's not sappy. There you go.
Live it. Love it.
How about you?
Okay, so that's funny you mentioned like not being up on pop culture because I feel like I've been living in a hole not knowing about Ray. Do you know about Ray, Tanya?
Do,
No,
re.
not that Ray. So,
Okay.
Ray is a singer-songwriter from England, from London. Her name is all capital Raye, and the reason why I actually first heard about Ray was she helped write for Beyonce the Riverdance song from the latest album, and I saw like a TikTok pop up of like Ray listening and being like, I helped write the song for Beyonce, and I'm like, who is this girl? And then did a deep dive, and oh my gosh, like, I mean, she's huge in England, so I think we're just starting to, well, within the last year. So she released an album called My 21st Century Blues like a year ago, and it's like her first major studio album. Do you know who I'm talking
Are
about now?
all the songs in Dorian?
No. That's so music nerdy, Tanya, but
I know.
good job.
I couldn't.
So my 21st Century Blues is a fantastic album just to listen
Okay.
to. But then she did an appearance at the Royal Albert Hall with the Heritage Orchestra and Flames Collective Choir. I just wanted to look up those names so I would get it right. I wouldn't have known that off the top of my head. But it's this huge then live concert experience of her album, which was so fantastic. But then the symphonic version of it is like, I love a huge symphonic show. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And it's so good. She did just perform on SNL like a month ago. So if you're an avid SNL watcher, you may have heard of her there too. Anyways, huge voice, really great songwriting. She's just really fantastic. So definitely listen to Ray. In particular, my 21st Century Symphony album is really great, but all of her stuff is really great. And I just hope to see her becoming more and more popular here in the States because, oh my gosh, she's fantastic. We've reached the double bar line. Thank you for listening to Music Teacher Coffee Talk. Show notes can be found at musicteachercoffeetalkpodcast.com. You can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Music Teacher Coffee Talk.
If you enjoyed this show, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving us a review on iTunes to help others find this podcast. And we always appreciate folks buying us a coffee, so look for that link in our show notes and on our Facebook page. Until next time, this is Tanya.
And this is Carrie wishing you happy musicking.